Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
This is The Ray Taylor Show.
Welcome to The Ray Taylor Show, where I bring you the reviews on the latest movies and TV shows, as well as classic films and foreign films. I'm your host, Ray Taylor, and on this podcast, I'll be talking about all the things film and television, whether you're looking for a new show to binge or want to know if that blockbuster is worth the trip to the theater. I've got you covered. So join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for new episodes, and let's dive into the world of film and television together. On this episode, I am talking about the movie that came out this year, The Menu, directed by Mark Mylod, written by Seth Reese and Will Tracy. This is a movie that I had heard good things about. This is a movie that seems on its face like a movie that would be specifically engineered and designed for me to love it, especially once I started watching this movie and got into it. This is a movie where people are going to this high-end restaurant that is secluded on an island where all the food comes from the island, and crazy things happen, right? And it seemed like a movie I would love, you know, on paper, knowing the kind of ideas and the premise of this movie, even watching the beginning of this movie, I was like, I think I might love this movie. It's categorized as being somewhat of a dark comedy, of a horror movie, thriller. I definitely feel like it had the thriller moments. At no point did I really feel like it was comical. I didn't laugh at any point. It didn't feel like a dark comedy. There were definitely ridiculous moments to it that but I didn't really necessarily take those moments as comical, which maybe that was their intention. I like the setup of this movie. I love the aesthetics of this movie. The cast is great. I love the first third of this movie. The initial turn this movie takes, after everything's set up, there's a little turn, and I was like, oh, here we go. This is where, where things, you realize things aren't all what they seem, right? There's this turn happens, and I'm like, yes, let's do this. The rubber's hitting the road. The setup is all there. All these people are on this island, and, unlikable characters, and it's, set up specifically for that reason. And then it progressively, I like this movie less and less. Just throughout this entire movie, started off really good, really positive. First moments of this movie, first third of this movie, and then after the turn, I was like, yes, this is it. I am in. And then it progressively, as the movie went on, I liked this movie less and less. So I can't recommend it, but I do know I've heard plenty of people who love it, and people love it for the reasons I thought I would love it, which is kind of the crazy thing about this movie, right? Because some people, the events that happen after the turn, for what I've seen reviews and things like that, they had problems with it, but it didn't matter, right? The premise of this movie was enough for them to love it, where for me it wasn't enough. But you have a group of people attending a very exclusive dining experience at a secluded high-end restaurant on an island. It's something that, only the privileged and wealthy can really experience. And that is a lot of the people who are patronizing this that are the patrons of this establishment. And things take a turn, and the evening isn't all what they expected. And, it's a movie categorized as a comedy, horror, thriller. I didn't really find it to be a very effective horror film. I think it definitely had some decent thriller moments to it. But at no point did I think this movie, I never, unless I had seen the category, it being categorized as One of the genres being comedy. I never would have done it myself. I did not find any moments to be funny. Whether they're, I love dark comedies. Reviewed On the Count of Three last week. Very dark comedy, at least the beginning of that movie. Very dark. Kind of leaves the comedy behind as that movie goes on. But at no point did I definitely found things to be ridiculous, but the ridiculous nature of them made me just feel like it lost the point, right? And I'll go into that in spoilers in detail of the things that I had problems with, the things that I loved, but man, I was bummed out. And I didn't necessarily have super high expectations of this movie. Didn't really know much about this movie going in other than the themes and ideas were something that was kind of made for me on a lot of ways. You go into this restaurant and it's an interesting thing. It's a movie about somebody who is a master of their craft, right? An artist, right? It is about this chef who is able to create these meals conceptually and legitimately at the highest of levels. That's why he is working at this restaurant. And I'm all about that. I believe all art forms have very related things. Doesn't matter if you're a musician or a chef or a painter or a podcaster or a writer. It doesn't matter. There's even a lot of athletes. There's a lot of commonalities between the struggles of somebody's journey trying to become the best version of that thing that they possibly can be. And it is about this chef who has reached that master status in a lot of ways. So I'm in this movie, right? Like I'll watch a documentary, these documentary shows about food and chefs and people that are amazing at what they do. And I will get emotional. I will cry watching somebody who is like the master at making brisket or whatever. And, so I'm in this movie. I'm like, sweet. Okay. We have this guy who's a master at what he does. They go to the restaurant. Everything is designed beautifully. The design and editing of this film, the graphic design of this film is on point with the aesthetics of like a restaurant websites, menus, the films. The food is all shot beautifully. The meticulous nature of these chefs, these people that work in the kitchen as they're constructing each dish. Like there is such a level of detail to every aspect of this film as it's starting. I'm like loving every aspect of it. The kitchen is set up in this restaurant almost like it's on the stage, like they are the performance as these people are eating and experiencing this meal, experiencing this thing that's designed, this menu that's designed from scratch to be this all-encompassing thing where at the end of this menu it will all make sense and all tie together and be this beautifully constructed, meticulously crafted piece of art that you get to experience. I'm in. I love all of that. Throughout this entire movie, they're like, wait, the menu comes together, that you have to wait for it's the whole experience, right? I would love to, be able to have that experience, right? I would love, it's not necessarily the way I enjoy food. I enjoy food at a different level, but to be able to have that kind of experience of somebody who's a master of their craft and to experience this meticulously planned and crafted menu as a holistic experience, I would love that, right? It's like interactive art in many ways, and it would be a beautiful experience. So I'm in. Right? And even seeing these characters where they're clearly like there's different archetypes for different characters. You have. Well, I want to make sure I'm not getting off path here. I guess I'll just go into it. The different characters, because I'm not spoiling. I want to make sure I'm not spoiling anything. I'll get to spoilers later. But, you have our main characters. You have Anya Taylor-Joy and what's this dude's name? Nicholas Hoult. Nicholas Holt's kind of like the fanboy, right? Super excited, knows the chef, super into the things. He's not necessarily a chef himself, but he's a super fan. He knows everything. He's like super into all of it, wants to know the minutia, the detail, the background stuff. And you have Anya Taylor-Joy playing Margot, who's not really into it. She's kind of there. She's the guest. He's invited her. You find out that she's wasn't his first choice, that there was somebody else who was supposed to be joining him, which seems to be a little bit of an issue with because everything's so meticulously planned to the very detail. Everything is so minutely, every small little detail is planned, that there's a little bit of a hiccup there. You have Ralph Fiennes, who's the chef, but then you have these other characters that are there, like you have these finance bros who are annoying. You have these kind of regular customers that are just this wealthy couple that can afford to go to this high-end restaurant that's like, $2,000 to $3,000 a plate or whatever. You take a ferry to this island. Everything that's on the menu comes from the island. You're in many ways eating the island, and they go there as just like a regular date night. You have this actor who's showing up with his personal assistant. You have these food critics that are over analyzing every minute detail and picking out every minute criticism they could have about what's being given to them, right? So you have all of these different people who are pretty much horrible people, right? I don't like any of these characters. Even Anya Taylor-Joy's character in this movie, even though she's not any of those people, she's not pretentious, she's not privileged, she's not wealthy, she's invited to this thing, but even her reaction to it is like, she's just rude. Right? She's angry that this experience isn't just a regular dining experience or whatever, right? So there's like no characters that I relate to, right? Like, maybe I'm the fanboy, but like way lower down. Like, he's a guy that like goes to the like feels entitled to, as if his knowledge makes him a part of the thing, right? He is like just so annoying. Just like, there is a level of fandom that exists in all art forms that is just annoying, right? They don't appreciate the art on a level. They are so stuck in the minutia and the details of things that they don't even experience it, the essence of this event, just as the actor who's just trying to show off doesn't experience or care about this experience. You have the wealthy people where it's just their monthly thing. You have these critics who get to criticize and experience these things all the time. You have these finance bros who don't care. They're just douchebags. Like, nobody gives a shit that this chef has meticulously crafted this experience for them. And because of that, I don't relate to any of them. I hate all of them. Like, this movie starting, I'm like, okay, well, I think this movie wants me to relate to Anya Taylor-Joy's character, especially as this movie goes on, which I do not at all relate to Anya Taylor-Joy's character. Do not like her character. She is like, as everybody else is on one extreme of not being, they're so elevated above this experience, they couldn't be bothered to care or respect it. She's on the complete other side of the spectrum, where it almost goes all the way around, where she's just so not caring about this experience existing at all, that she's just rude about it. Like, there's not a single person that is just appreciating the moment, right? The only character in this that I kind of relate to is I don't know if she's a host or a waitress, but she is kind of walking the tables and, kind of keeping people on point and talking back to people that are being rude to her. Like, I connect with her as somebody that's worked in customer service, in the service industry, which is an element of this movie as well. Like, I relate to her. I was like, yes, I wish, that is like, she is fulfilling some wish fulfillment in that way and how she's treating these people.
I want to take a quick break from the show to let you all know that there is official merch for the Ray Taylor Show. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com. You can get t-shirts, different artwork available, different designs, all on high-quality materials in all the sizes. There's also iPhone cases made of biodegradable material. That's right. This is not bad for the environment. This is good for the environment. So all of those designs that are available on t-shirts are also available on phone cases. Designed by me, sold by me. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com to support the Ray Taylor Show and promote it out in the world, so all of the people in your life can see that you are a fan of the Ray Taylor Show. Now, let's get back to that very show right now.
There's a turn that happens that's like, I was in tune for. I was on the same page as this movie when this turn happens, where it's like, oh, right, these people, like, there's a reason why these people are unlikable. There's going to be this thing where this artist is going to teach these people in some ways a lesson. And I'm like, I am there for it. I'm like, yes, I don't like any of these people. Let's get it going. And after that turn, every event that follows that, I like this movie less and less, where I'm on the same page at first, and then by the end of it, I'm like, it feels like this movie goes completely out of what it was trying to do, in my opinion, right? It seems like it's trying to convey a message, but I think it completely misses the mark for me. This should have been a movie that I loved. It could have easily been a movie that I loved, right? It could have been my favorite movie of the year, right? This movie about a master in an art form, a movie that confronts the wealthy and the privileged who don't appreciate art, who are like posers in a lot of ways, right? Like a lot of the people who complain and cry online about the famous paintings being used for demonstrations that aren't being destroyed or harmed in any way because they're completely protected by glass, but they want to virtue signal to the world that they love art and they care about art, but they're at the same time people that probably don't collect or have art on their walls. That's what this movie is setting up to be in a lot of ways. It feels like it's setting up to be, right? Just the worst kinds of people that get to enjoy a level of an experience, but they do not appreciate it at all. This movie that could have been this revenge fantasy in a lot of ways, but it feels like the movie was written from a perspective of privilege in a lot of ways as well, right? It doesn't feel like this is a movie written from the perspective of the artist. It's a movie that in many ways feels like it's written from a level of privilege and a privileged person making fun of other privileged people, but not like, in many ways, the artist in this movie, the chef in this movie, is the bad guy. Right, there's no good. I believe this movie is trying to make you sympathize with Anya Taylor-Joy's character and nobody else. And I don't sympathize with her character at all. If anybody, I sympathized with that waitress or host. I sympathize with the chef, at least to an extent. But I don't feel like this movie was written to be that. And I think that's one of the reasons why it missed the mark for me. Right? Just the motives of what happens, they seem off. I just don't connect with it. The artistry of this movie, the meticulous nature of everything that sets everything up, and that would, if that artistry had continued throughout the events and seemed to pay that level of attention to detail with the events that happen after the turn, I think it would have been better. But it just feels like it went from like meticulously planned to being just like, let's do this thing because it's interesting, or because it's just like wacky for wacky purposes, and not wacky in a funny way either. Just like, it just feels like it went from a well-written, crafted movie to being a poorly written, hapdash, thrown together thing. It's so weird how horribly this movie goes for me. I mean, the visual style is amazing. The way it's filmed and presented, like I said, it's amazing. But once it turns, like, it just gets messy, right? It goes from clean and precise to messy and pointless, right? It goes from being this like thing that's supposed to have this structure that comes together at the end to like explain itself by the end. But by the end of this movie, nothing is explained. Nothing like doesn't make sense, right? Like, I watched a detective movie, right? The end of a detective movie. The end of a detective movie is a crucial part where everything gets put together. You have all the pieces come together, and I'm expecting a similar thing to be happening where everything that happened is going to make sense. But that never happens, as if this was not constructed by a master, right? It feels like it's constructed by an amateur, while the beginning of this film makes you feel like you're watching something that's going to be meticulously orchestrated. You know? Nothing, just all the events just don't make sense, like I said. Nothing kind of comes together. There's no, the ending doesn't tie everything up, doesn't clarify, doesn't provide context for things. You know, I feel like there's an amazing movie that could have happened, right? If you take the premise, you take the beginning of this movie, and then you meticulously make all of those events that happen after the turn, make those make sense and tie in with the overall narrative to where the end of this movie is, you have that aha moment, then sure, I'd love it. But it doesn't. And it's a thing where the people that I've heard love this movie don't care that it doesn't, right? Maybe they feel like it's a feature, not a bug, but I felt like it was laziness, right? I don't know, man. It just feels like it completely falls apart for me. So let me get into spoilers, because there are details that I want to talk about, things that didn't make sense, why they didn't make sense to me. So if you don't want to be spoiled on this movie, I necessarily wouldn't recommend it. You know, but there are people that like it. So just because I had problems with it, maybe you do like where it goes. There are definitely people that do love where this went and thought it should have been received a lot better. I don't like this movie much at all. I like how it starts. I like the premise. I like what this movie started off to be, what it seemed like its intentions were. I like the things that people think it actually says, but I don't think it actually communicates those things very well. You know, all the guests, I believe you're meant to hate them, right? The super fan, you're meant to hate the super fan. The tech bros, the older couple, the unfaithful husband, clearly, the egotistical actor and his assistant who doesn't really care, the critics. You know, it's successful at all those things, right? I don't think this movie fails at everything, but I think it sets up everything so meticulously and then shits all over it, which makes it just pointless. Anya Taylor-Joy is supposed to be the one you root for, but at no point do I. She's supposed to be like the commoner, the service worker, right? And how she's an escort, and that's how she's, you know, supposedly relating to the service work. But she's just rude. She's rude. She doesn't care about this thing either. Like, there's nobody that actually cares about this meal, right?
Let's take a little break from the show to promote the benefits of Inspired Disorder Plus. So you go inspireddisorder.com/plus. Sign up, $5 a month. You get to binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free. You get to watch all of the live painting videos I do. You get a special members-only discount and deals for all of the artwork and merch that I sell. You also get the complete
podcast back catalog of every podcast I've ever produced, hundreds of episodes, countless different podcasts. You also get access to my personal blog. A new blog comes out every week. In addition to that, you get my creative writing that I'm releasing. You also get access to asking me anything. 14 years of experience podcasting. I've been creating art my entire life. I've been using Photoshop since middle school, and you can contact me to ask me questions about that or anything else. So those are the benefits for signing up for Inspired Disorder Plus.
And now let's get back to the show.
And the themes of it, how this chef is like a master as a chef, and because he's such a master at what he does, he's trapped himself to be at a level where the only people that can afford to experience what he does don't care. They don't have a real true appreciation for it. And in many ways, he is trapped by his own success. Like, I love that idea. I love that. That's, yes. But the way this movie expresses that, the way this guy gets back at these people, which is what this movie is, it's him getting back at these people, just doesn't make any sense, when you see the tortillas come out with the images burned into them, lasered into them, right? And it's revealed, everybody's skeletons are revealed, right? The super fan, it's exposed that they know he's been taking pictures, even though they're not supposed to be taking pictures, right? He doesn't care about the rules. He doesn't care. He's not enjoying this experience. He wants to capture this experience to, to show off to the other, to virtue signal to the other fanboys. Like, ooh, look what I got to experience. The tech bros don't care. They have, disposable income. The couple that shows up all the time, they don't care. But you see all of their skeletons. I was like, okay, here we go. He's going to get an act revenge. Like, I want to relate to the artist. I don't care about Anya Taylor-Joy whatsoever, right? But then the sous chef comes out for the next meal. Like, each course, it starts getting progressively and progressively crazier. And when the sous chef comes out and kills himself, right, and it takes it to that next level, I feel is when the movie starts losing me. Because the images on the tortilla make sense. The sous chef killing himself, I guess, would communicate how somebody working for a chef who is this level of chef is in many ways suicide. You might, you can't, you're trapped as well, right? So I guess it kind of makes sense, but it's the beginning of the end, in my opinion. Then you have like these other progressive things that just don't make any sense at all, right? They cut off the finger of the cheating husband. Okay, symbolism, sure. He cheated on his wife, cut off his ring finger. They have the owner strung up above water, I think, with wings on, and he's lowered into the water and drowned. Why? None of that makes sense. None of that is like, okay, right? I mean, I understand why he would do it. That is the person in many ways trapping him in this life, right? He's the investor. He's the boss that's forcing him to stay in this cage where he's only able to create this high-end food for people who don't care. But why was he killed in that way? There's like no, right? There's so much meaning in everything else. Like even the conceptual bread that's the non-bread bread, where it's just like the accoutrement of bread. And, oils and butter and things like that, but no bread. I'm down with the conceptual nature of it. There's no conceptual, like it becomes progressively more amateurish, right? Even giving the men an opportunity to run away makes no sense. Makes no sense. Absolutely no sense, right? It just all progressively just kept feeling dumber and dumber, which is in complete contrast to the precision and meticulous nature of how everything was planned and executed at the beginning, right? It goes from being this precision, artistic thing that would make sense, that everything's going to wrap up in an intelligent way at the end. And progressively, it becomes dumber and dumber and more messy throughout the entire movie. And they keep mentioning, to complete the theme, the concept of this menu, you have to wait to the end. Wait to the end and it will all make sense. And no, it doesn't. It doesn't at all. There's no aha moment whatsoever. But instead, it ends with human s'mores and Anya eating a burger on a boat. The fake Coast Guard guy doesn't make any sense. Why that was orchestrated to be a thing. The replica restaurant in his cottage makes sense. His obsession with living in his space to be comfortable in this space where he's creating to live in a replica of that, sure. The silver door doesn't make any sense, And even when she escapes, she gets in a boat, she escapes. I don't know why the boat's there, but there's a boat there for her to escape, for somebody to escape. They had a chance to run away. Nobody got in the boat, apparently. She gets in the boat and she stops the boat so that she can look at the island burn while she eats leftovers. Doesn't make any sense, right? The reason the host had fears that Anya Taylor-Joy's character was going to replace her and steal her job doesn't make any sense. Like, at no point did it seem like she was going to be, like she was forming some new bond and going to replace. Like, it just so many things did not make any sense. Like, even the fact that everybody, all the guests and all the staff were just okay with dying at the end doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And even like the clap that had the annoying clap, I thought, okay, maybe that's going to be something, that's going to, in some ways, make sense instead of just being annoying. But it's just annoying, It's just just messy. Like, even talking about it, it just feels like I can't speak about these things because they don't have meaning to the story. They don't have meaning to, like, maybe if, it starts with them having their skeletons exposed, kind of, and it seems like that is something that may have been like, each meal, each thing, we're going to get progressively dissecting these people, right? We're going to deconstruct these people, but nothing that happens is related to in any way anymore what these people are or who they are, or the reasonings or what happens to them doesn't have any relation to anything. There is no wrapping up. There is no meticulous grand design for this meal. It feels like somebody trying to write a love story that's never been in love. That's how disconnected it feels, right? Where it's like the setup for everything's great, and then the rest of it's like, but I don't really know how to, like, he's bullshitted up to the point of this movie till things started getting real, and then it just all falls apart, where it just doesn't make sense, right? Like somebody who's writing a love story that's never written a love story before. It's just crazy. But, there are people that love this movie. And, I don't want to shit on anybody who does love the movie, but for me, it fundamentally a different movie than what the ideas were about, the ideas about art, and how people view art, and how the nature of art and creating, and the people that who are the most involved or the least appreciative of. It feels like it dropped the ball in every way, and it's a bummer, you know? I think this movie had a great premise, great ideas, right? The idea of trapping a trapped artist, becoming great only to be stuck creating for the people that, you know, don't appreciate his work, you know, the reality of his work. I love the actors. I love the aesthetic of the film, the high quality food shots, and all of those things, everything leading up to when things start going bad. It just becomes messier and messier. Just beautifully shot, but the visual themes were amazing, right on the mark. I mean, they looked very restaurant, like everything felt perfect, right? This movie felt like it was meticulously planned and designed and shot and edited in a way with meaning. And then it goes completely off the rails. Just did not land. Completely missed the mark. You know, and even as a horror film, I didn't feel terrified. I hated everybody. I wanted everybody to die. And even though I wanted everybody to die, right? I hated every character. Anya Taylor-Joy included. The only character I had any respect for in this was the host lady. That's it. Maybe the drunk mom. But she was another side character that meant nothing to this movie. Even though my wishes for everybody to die coming true, unsatisfying. Didn't care. I just didn't care about any of them. There was no like catharsis because they were just like, just didn't care. I didn't care what was going on. You know, it just a bad movie, I felt, and completely dropped the ball. But anyway, thank you for watching this episode of The Ray Taylor Show. I hope you enjoyed my thoughts on the menu. But don't forget to tune in every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for new movie reviews on TV shows and movies. And join the conversation by leaving a comment or rating on your favorite podcast platform or on YouTube. Until next time, enjoy the show.
New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at inspireddisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!
Today is the day where you wake up and you realize that everything that you've been dreaming about, everything that you've been wanting, every goal and wish and hope that you've ever had can become real. Dreams can come true. What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.